Hey everybody, welcome back to DT Performance. And in the last video you saw where we put the Sonax no walk bushing in the case. So now we're going to start putting our direct drum together, getting our stack up right with the clutches. We're actually going to use a 4L80E drum. So let's go over here to the table. We've got the Turbo 400 Direct Drum, the 4L80E drum. I'm going to use the Piston out of the 400, but the only issue I found is I've got a check ball in the Piston and I've got a check ball in the 4L80E drum. Now I've heard you can run two check balls, but I'm actually going to use a set screw. I'm going to Loctite it in and stake it into the piston. We're going to use that piston and do that mod, as well as the bleed hole mod. We're going to drill the 1/16 hole through the bottom of the drum. And the reason I'm using this is because it has the 34 element Sprag, where this one has the roller clutch type. So let me get you set up on the tripod and we'll take these drums apart. We'll dry stack our clutches, get our clearances right, and look at the differences in between the two drums. So again, we have the Turbo 400 Direct Drum on the left, the 4L80E drum on the right. I have already removed the pressure plate. Snap ring, very simple. You just pop it out with a screwdriver and walk it around. I've also removed the spring retainer snap ring. On the 4L80E, you can see it has a caged style spring system, whereas on the 400, your springs are actually sitting down in the piston. That's why I'm going to use this piston, is because my manual valve body has springs that go with it, so we're going to use this 400. Basically all I did was I used this tool. You put your drum underneath it, it compresses your springs down to where you can get your snap ring out, and then it's basically you just pull everything out. So let's look at some of the differences when we start looking at the drums. Okay, one of the first things you're going to notice, the 400 piston is quite different. Again, it has the spring retainers built into the piston. This piston is 688 thousandths thick, measured from this pad to this pad, and it does have the check ball. Now we are going to take the check ball out and we're going to lock some people call them grub screws, I call it a set screw, but we're going to tap this and Loctite this with some permanent Loctite, and then I'm going to stake this back down so that if this screw ever did decide to move, it would not back out of this hole into my transmission. You'll also notice on the 4L80E drum, or piston, I'm sorry, it does not have a check ball, but it does not have the provisions for the springs. This piston is 620 thousandths thick from the pad to top, so that's what, with no spring pockets, you use this cage system, and that works fine. But what that's going to cause, if you look, it's going to cause a clearance issue with our stack up on our clutches. And then this ledge inside of here, you probably can't see it on camera very well, but the ledge on the 4L80E is closer to the top of the drum than it is on the 400. So what that means is when I stack all my clutches in here, I'm going to have additional clearance on my pressure plate. So the rule of thumb is 10 thousandths per clutch. So we should have about 50 thousandths between the pressure plate and the top clutch when we get it in here. This is a 5-clutch stack up in the 4L80E, and it does use 90 thousandths steels. But on the bottom, some people call them wave plates. I don't know the correct terminology for this one. It's not actually, looks like a wave plate. It looks more like a cushion plate. So when the clutches engage, they don't slam together, I guess. But it does use 5 steels that are 90 thousandths with this. So again, I'm going to remove this, and that's going to make my stack up even more, give me even more clearance as compared to the 400. It uses 90 thousandths steels and it has 5 clutches as well. I am going to use a 5-clutch stack up in my 4L80E drum, simply because I don't have a way to machine this piston down to put that 6 clutch in there. So that's what I'm going to do. But what I did to combat the stack up here You can use a combination of 60 thousandths steels with some 75 thousandths steels and 90s to get your stack up right. But I went online and I actually found some 100 thousandths thick steels. And when I stack these in there, it's going to give me the right amount of stack up in here, which is, we're looking for about 50 thousandths again. So I'm going to remove this center seal. That is part of the mod for my manual valve body, as well as, like I told you, we're going to put the set screw in here, and then we're going to drill the bleed hole in the corner of the drum. As well as one of the other things I told you guys about, the difference. I should have already had this taken apart so that you could see. One of the benefits to using a 4L80E, it does use a spiral lock snap ring versus the 400's regular snap ring. So let's take these off, and I'll show you why I went with the 4L80E. The main reason I went with the 4L80E. So when you take the race off, get the cover off here. Take the race off each one, you'll notice this one has the roller clutch style. I was hoping when I took this off that it had the actual Sprag, but it does not. And I had already ordered, this one is a 16, I believe, 16 element Sprag on the 4L80E. I didn't count them, I'm just looking at it and guessing here. But I ordered the 34. And that was one of my main reasons for going with the 4L80, so I could put the 34 element Sprag. I heard this was a failure point in the transmission, so I wanted to beef it up as best I could. So let me get this cleaned up, and I'll drill the hole, show you how I drilled it. We'll get the Sprag on, and this thing will be, we'll get our stack up, and this thing will be ready to go. The first mod we're going to make is we're going to drill the bleed hole in the drum. So there's a check ball here, and it's in line with this lug. So I'm going to center up the bleed hole with the other side of this lug. And I'm just going to take my center punch, put it right in the center. Careful not to get into the place where the sealing surface is for your piston. Now I'm going to drill at about a 45-degree angle with my drill right through that hole, and we will take a look at the bleed hole when we get it finished. And there you have it, guys. There's the hole. Let's turn and look at the other side. Where did we come out at? Right on the edge. That's the way it's supposed to look. So now I'm going to modify my piston. I'm going to pop this check ball out. I'm going to tap this 1/4-28 and lock a set screw in there. So let me get set up. Let me get this ball out, and I'll show you what the end result looks like. Okay, so you saw me knock the check ball out, and if you can see, I threaded that hole with a 1/4 28. It's a fine thread tap. And I've got a 1/4 28 set screw, or grub screw, some folks call it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean this up, but I'm just going to put this in here for demonstration purposes right now. But if you get a 3/16, you tighten it up, you notice it's just below flush of the surface. Now, I did not tap all the way through, and I did that on purpose so that if this set screw was to try to walk, it's not going to come out the top. And when I put this in, I'm going to Loctite it. And then I will take a punch and I will brad, or some people call it lock. You can tell where they lock the check ball in. I will squeeze this over to where it will not back out, so no worries of it spinning out. So now I have a piston that does not have a check ball. All right. The next thing I'm going to do, let me get set up here. As a part of my valve body, this center sealing ring here comes off. So now what we're going to do is get set up and we'll stack our clutches and see what our clutch stack winds up being. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut you off for just 1 second. I'm going to clean all the debris out of here. I don't want to put my brand new clutches in here with the metal dust that came out of the drilling the bleed hole. So let me get this cleaned up and I'll cut you right back on. So I was watching my last part of my video back, and I said 3/16 right here, guys. This is a 3/16 long 1/4 28 thread. Let me take it out and show you. I don't want you guys to pick up the wrong thing at the hardware store if you're following along. So 1/4 28 fine thread, or 1/4 28 thread. This one is a 1/4 inch long. This one is 3/16. That's what I was referring to, the length that goes down in this piston. Also, you know, as a part of our, I told you as part of our valve body, we're taking out the center seal. But if you're rebuilding a stock transmission, your seals, when you get ready to put them back in, the seal faces up on the center here. You can see the lip. And then when you get to your piston, your pistons face down. That one faces down, and you can see that one faces down. I'm holding it up, but if it goes down in the bore, your lips of your seals will face downward, so that when pressure is applied, it cups that in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these seals out to make it easier to make our stack up. We're going to make our stack up, measure it. We'll look at the Sprag, and we'll end out this video. So again, I went with 100 thousandths steels, and I've got 80 thousandths clutches. And this is going to be a 5 clutch stack up. If I had a lathe, I would turn this piston down and run a 6 clutch stack up, but I don't have the ability to do that. One other thing that you might want to use, or when we get ready to measure, are these feeler gauges that have the angle on them. It's hard to get a flat set of feeler gauges in there, but I'll show you here in a second. Now, pressure plate. Snap ring. And again, we're looking for 50 thousandths. Let's feel of it and see how it feels. Oh yeah, that's tight. So let's look for our feeler gauge here. There's a 19 and a 20. So where's 11 at? 11. 19, 20, and 11 is 50. So make sure I don't have an extra one in there. I felt like there was 4. Nope, there's 3. So we're looking for 50 thousandths. Let me see if this is what I'm looking for. Oh, nice. My pressure plate doesn't move. Let's check it on this side. Hold it up. That is perfect, guys. I've got 50 thousandths with 5 clutches. That's exactly what I was looking for. So 100 thousandths steels, 80 thousandths clutches, turbo 400 piston, and a 4L80E drum will get you your 50 thousandths. Okay, the main reason I wanted to change over to the 4L80 was the 34 element Sprag. Again, here's your stock roller clutch. Here is the stock 4L80E, and here is the Borg Warner 34 element Sprag. You can see many more rollers in there. So let's put this on there. One last thing I'm going to show you. This is probably not going to go smoothly since I'm trying to film it. I actually practiced putting this on so that I could show you guys. And sometimes it will just fall on there, and sometimes you have to push the rollers in, kind of help it get down on there. It'd be really nice if it would go down on here on camera. One more try. If I can't get it, oh, there we go. Perfect timing, perfect timing. So this thing should freewheel clockwise and lock counterclockwise. That's the orientation that you want that Sprag. If you've got it where it's freewheeling counterclockwise, you need to flip your Sprag over. So again, freewheel clockwise, locks counterclockwise. We'll come back, we'll put our shield on here. Well, actually we'll put the top of our, that's not the right one. We'll put the top of our Sprag cover. And I ordered a new spiral lock. This is the GM part number. I'm going to put a new spiral lock on here, get everything cleaned up. The next thing is going to be, we'll soak our clutches in transmission fluid. Put this all together. We'll be ready to start putting our lower parts together. There's a Torrington bearing, the reaction carrier, and we're going to remove some of these as part of our valve body build, or valve body installation as well. So that's the 4L80E drum in a nutshell. The 2 mods that I did, the bleed hole and the set screw inside the piston. All right, guys. I know we didn't put the seals on the piston. I'll show you how to do that next video. I'll have my clutches soaking in transmission fluid. I'm going to have the piston staked down with Loctite, have all that complete. In the next video, we're going to replace bearings and bushings in the output shaft and the lower reaction carrier, things like that. We'll get all that done. I'll show you how to put those seals in the piston with one of these lip wizards. We'll get that going. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping in. If you want to see more content, please hit that subscribe button. Comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this build, or if you've got some advice. I'll take some advice as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next episode.